Dr. Linda Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stepped out of the research shuttle. The hot sun of Zarian 4 beat down on her protective suit, making her feel like she was walking inside an oven. She had been working on Research Station Omega 7 for 3 years now, studying strange alien creatures for the Galactic Science Consortium. Most days were boring, filled with paperwork and following rules that made no sense to her. Today was supposed to be different. Today she was finally allowed to visit the surface of Zarian 4, a planet known for its unusual wildlife. Linda had been asking Commander Jake Harrison for months to let her do field work instead of just sitting in the lab all day. He always said it was too dangerous, that she needed to follow protocols. But Linda knew the real reason. The consortium didn't want scientists making their own discoveries. They wanted everything controlled, everything safe. Linda walked across the rocky ground, her scanner beeping softly as it detected various life forms. Small creatures scurried between the purple plants that grew everywhere on this world. The air smelled strange, like metal mixed with flowers. She took samples of soil and plants, carefully labeling each one according to the strict procedures she had memorized. She was about to head back to the shuttle when her scanner started beeping rapidly. The sound was different from before, more urgent. Linda looked at the small screen and saw a large heat signature about 200 meters away. It was big, much bigger than anything she had seen in the planet's files. Linda knew she should call Commander Harrison right away. The rules were clear about unknown life forms. But something made her hesitate. The heat signature wasn't moving. It had been in the same spot for the past 10 minutes, and it was getting weaker. Against her better judgment, Linda walked toward the signal. She climbed over rocks and pushed through thick bush until she reached a small valley. What she saw there made her gasp. A massive creature lay trapped under a pile of rocks and metal debris. It looked like a giant lizard, but unlike any animal Linda had ever seen. Its body was at least 12 feet long, covered in scales that seemed to change color in the sunlight. Even though it was obviously hurt, there was something noble about the way it held its head. Its eyes were a beautiful amber color, and when it looked at Linda, she could see intelligence there. The creature was breathing hard, and one of its legs was pinned under a large piece of twisted metal. Linda could see dark blood seeping from wounds on its side. It was clearly in pain, but it didn't try to attack her. Instead, it just watched her with those intelligent eyes. Linda's scanner showed that the creature's vital signs were getting weaker. It was dying, and she was probably the only person who could help it. She knew what she was supposed to do. Call for backup, wait for the experts, follow the protocols. But looking at the suffering creature, Linda couldn't bring herself to walk away. She thought about all the times she had wanted to help animals as a child back in Texas. Her parents had always said she cared too much about creatures that couldn't help themselves. Linda opened her emergency medical kit and approached the creature. Slowly, she spoke softly, the way she used to talk to injured animals when she was young. "Hey there, big guy," she said. "I'm going to help you, okay? Just stay calm." The creature's eyes followed her movements, but it didn't try to move away. Linda began working on the metal piece that was pinning its leg. It was heavy, and she had to use her portable lift to move it. The creature made a low sound when the metal shifted, but it didn't seem angry. It sounded more like it was trying to communicate. Once the leg was free, Linda could see that it wasn't broken, just badly bruised. She cleaned the wounds on the creature's side with antiseptic from her kit. The cuts were deep, but they weren't bleeding as much as she had first thought. She applied medical patches designed for alien skin types, hoping they would work. Linda worked for almost 2 hours, carefully treating each wound. The creature lay still the whole time, occasionally making soft sounds that seemed almost like gratitude. As she worked, Linda noticed more details about the being. Its scales weren't just changing color randomly. They seemed to shift based on emotion or the light around it. The pattern was beautiful, like living art. When she finished, the creature's breathing had improved. Its eyes looked brighter, and it was able to lift its head higher. Linda sat back on her heels, tired but satisfied. She had done what she could. With the supplies she had, "There you go," she said. "You should be feeling better soon." The creature looked at her for a long moment, then did something that surprised her. It lowered its great head and gently touched her hand with its snout. The gesture was so human-like that Linda felt tears in her eyes. That's when she heard the sound of approaching vehicles. Commander Harrison's voice crackled through her radio. Martinez, what's your status? Your tracker shows you've been in the same location for over 2 hours. Linda looked at the creature, then at her radio. She made a decision that would change everything. Commander, I found an injured alien creature. I've been providing medical assistance. The silence on the radio lasted for several seconds. When Harrison spoke again, his voice was cold. Martinez, did you just say you made direct contact with an unknown species without authorization? Sir, the creature was dying. I couldn't just leave it there. Stay exactly where you are. Do not approach the creature any further. We're coming to your location. Linda looked at the creature, which seemed to understand that something was wrong. It was looking toward the sound of approaching vehicles with what looked like concern. Sorry, Linda whispered. I hope I didn't make things worse for you. Commander Harrison arrived 20 minutes later with a full security team. He was a tall man with gray hair and a permanent frown. Linda had never seen him this angry before. Dr. Martinez, step away from the creature immediately. He ordered. Linda stood up and moved back, but she kept her eyes on the creature. It was watching the armed security team with obvious intelligence. She could see it calculating, deciding what to do. Jake, it's not dangerous, Linda said. It's intelligent. Look at its eyes. That's Commander Harrison to you, Doctor. And you have no idea what this thing is capable of. He turned to his security team. Set up a perimeter. No one approaches without my orders. The creature seemed to understand the hostile intent of the armed humans. It slowly got to its feet, testing its injured leg. Linda was amazed to see how quickly it had recovered. Most alien species took days to heal from wounds like that. Sir, look how fast it's healing, Linda said excitedly. This could be a major scientific discovery. Commander Harrison ignored her. He was talking into his radio, calling for additional support and containment equipment. Linda watched as the creature looked around at the circle of armed humans, then at her. For a moment, their eyes met again. The creature made a low sound, almost like it was saying goodbye. Then, moving faster than anything that large should be able to move, it bounded away into the dense forest. The security team tried to follow, but the creature was gone. Disappearing into the thick vegetation like smoke, Commander Harrison turned to Linda, his face red with anger. Congratulations, Dr. Martinez. You've just violated every first contact protocol in the book. That creature could have been dangerous, could have carried diseases, could have been anything. And now it's gone, and we have no idea what it learned about us. Linda looked toward the forest where the creature had vanished. She didn't regret helping it, but she had a feeling that her life was about to become very complicated. Sir, I stand by my actions. That creature was suffering, and I couldn't just watch it die. Harrison shook his head. We'll discuss this back at the station. Pack up your equipment. This mission is over. As they walked back to the shuttles, Linda kept looking over her shoulder at the forest. She had the strange feeling that she was being watched, but she couldn't see anything in the shadows between the trees. Something told her that this wasn't the end of her story with the mysterious creature. It was just the beginning. Linda Martinez sat in her small quarters aboard Research Station Omega 7, staring at the official letter on her desk. The words seemed to blur together as she read them for the third time. Termination of employment. Effective immediately. Gross. Violation of first contact protocols. It had been exactly 24 hours since she helped the injured creature on Zarian 4, 24 hours since she made the decision that ended her career with the Galactic Science Consortium. She should have felt angry or sad, but mostly she felt empty inside. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Kevin Brooks entered without waiting for permission. He was her research partner and one of the few people on the station she considered a real friend. Kevin was a quiet man from California who always wore the same type of thick glasses and never seemed to get excited about anything. Today, however, he looked upset. Linda, I just heard about the termination letter, he said, sitting down on her small couch. This is insane. You saved a creature's life. Linda put the letter down and looked at him. I broke the rules, Kevin. You know how the consortium feels about unauthorized contact. The rules are stupid, Kevin said, which surprised Linda. He usually followed every rule perfectly. What were you supposed to do? Let it die? According to Commander Harrison, yes. That's exactly what I was supposed to do. Kevin took off his glasses and cleaned them, something he did when he was thinking hard. Have you considered appealing the decision? I could help you write a formal complaint. Linda shook her head. You know how the bureaucracy works? They've already made up their minds. Besides, maybe it's time for a change. The truth was, Linda had been unhappy at the station for months. She had become a scientist to discover new things, to help alien species, to make a difference. Instead, she spent most of her time filling out forms and following procedures that seemed designed to prevent actual science from happening. Where will you go? Kevin asked. Back to Earth, I guess. Maybe I can teach at a university or work in a zoo. Linda tried to sound like she didn't care, but her voice cracked a little. Kevin stood up and walked to the small window that looked out into space. You know, half the station thinks you're a hero, the other half thinks you're crazy. What? Do you think? I think you did what any decent person would do. The creature was suffering and you helped it. That's who you are, Linda. Don't let them make you feel bad about having a heart. After Kevin left, Linda began packing her few belongings. She had never collected much stuff during her time on the station. A few books, some photos from Earth, her collection of alien plant samples. Everything fit into 2 small cases. Dr. Susan Miller, the station's head of biology, stopped by to say goodbye. She was an older woman who had worked for the consortium for over 20 years. Linda had always respected her, even when they disagreed. I'm sorry about how this turned out, Susan said. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Then, why didn't you say something to Commander Harrison? Susan looked uncomfortable. You know how it is. I have to think about my own career, my own team. The consortium doesn't like people who make waves. Linda nodded, understanding but disappointed. This was exactly the kind of thinking that made her want to leave. Everyone was so afraid of breaking rules that they forgot why the rules existed in the first place. The creature you helped, Susan continued, it was unlike anything in our databases. The medical scans from your suit showed some very unusual readings. What kind of readings? Its cellular structure was incredibly complex. The healing rate was off the charts, and the brain activity... Susan paused. Linda, I think you encountered something very special. Something that might have been more intelligent than we assumed. Linda felt a chill run down her spine. She had suspected the creature was intelligent, but hearing it from a senior scientist made it feel more real. Do you think it was dangerous? I don't know. But I don't think it was just an animal. The way it responded to you, the way it seemed to understand the situation... Susan shook her head. I've been studying alien life for 2 decades, and I've never seen anything like it. After Susan left, Linda continued packing. She tried not to think about the creature, but she couldn't stop wondering what it was and where it came from. The planet Zarian 4 was supposed to be home to simple life. Forms nothing more advanced than the equivalent of Earth's insects. Yet the creature she had helped was clearly much more than that. Commander Harrison came by later that evening. He looked tired and older than his 50 years. Linda had never seen him without his uniform perfectly pressed, but tonight his shirt was wrinkled and his hair was messy. Linda, I want you to know this wasn't personal, he said, standing awkwardly in her doorway. I know, Jake, you were following orders. The decision came from way above me. The consortium board reviewed the footage from your suit camera and decided immediately. I tried to argue for a reprimand instead of termination, but they wouldn't. Listen, Linda was surprised. She hadn't expected Harrison to defend her at all. Why did you try to help me? Harrison sat down heavily. Because I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've seen what happens when scientists stop caring about the beings they study. They become cold, mechanical. You care too much sometimes, but it's better than not caring at all. Then why didn't you support me when it mattered? Because I'm a coward, Harrison said simply. I have 2 kids on Earth and a wife who depends on my salary. I can't afford to lose my job by fighting the consortium. Linda felt sorry for him. She realized that in some ways she was lucky to be free of the system that trapped people like Harrison. What will you do now? He asked. I don't know. Go home, I guess. Find something else to do with my life. Harrison nodded and stood up. For what it's worth, I think you'll be happier away from here. This place changes people, makes them forget why they became scientists in the first place. The next morning, Linda made her way to the transport bay. The ship that would take her back to Earth was scheduled to leave in an hour. Kevin was there to see her off, along with a few other colleagues who had become friends over the years. Stay in touch, Kevin said, hugging her goodbye. Maybe when this all blows over, you can come back. I don't think I want to come back, Linda said honestly. Maybe it's time to try something completely different. As Linda walked toward the transport ship, she felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. She was leaving behind the only career she had ever wanted, but she was also leaving behind the frustration and limitations that had been making her miserable. She was halfway to the ship when the alarm started blaring. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the station. The intercom crackled to life with Commander Harrison's voice, but he sounded different, scared. All personnel to emergency stations. We have unidentified ships approaching the station. This is not a drill. Linda stopped walking and looked around. Other people were running past her, heading to their emergency positions. But she wasn't part of the crew anymore. She didn't have an emergency position. Through the large windows of the transport bay, Linda could see something that made her heart stop. Ships were approaching the station, but these weren't like any ship she had ever seen before. They were huge, with curved lines that looked almost organic. They seemed to flow through space rather than fly. The largest ship was magnificent and terrifying at the same time. It was easily 10 times the size of the biggest human vessel Linda had ever seen. Its hull seemed to shift and change color like the scales of the creature she had helped. Linda felt a cold realization wash over her. This wasn't a coincidence. These ships were here because of what she had done on XER Ion-4. Commander Harrison's voice came over the intercom again, and this time he sounded truly frightened. Unknown vessels, this is Research Station Omega 7. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came immediately, broadcast on all frequencies. The voice was deep and powerful, speaking perfect galactic standard with an accent Linda had never heard before. We seek the human female who showed mercy to our prince. She will come with us willingly, or we will take her. Linda's legs felt weak. She grabbed onto a nearby railing for support. The creature she had helped wasn't just an intelligent alien, it was a prince. And now his people had come for her, all around her. People were staring at the approaching ships with fear and amazement. Linda realized that her quiet life was over. Whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same again. The voice from the alien ship spoke again, and this time Linda was certain it was directed at her. Dr. Linda Martinez, you have been chosen. Prepare yourself for a journey beyond your imagination. Linda Martinez stood frozen in the transport bay as the massive alien ships moved closer to Research Station Omega 7. The largest vessel was so big that it blocked out the stars behind it. She could hear people running through the corridors, shouting orders and preparing for what might be an attack. Commander Harrison's voice came over the intercom again, trying to sound calm but failing. All civilian personnel report to emergency shelters immediately. Security teams to battle stations. Linda didn't move. She couldn't. The alien voice had called her by name. They knew exactly who she was and why they were here. This was all because she had helped an injured creature on Zarian 4, a creature that was apparently a prince. Kevin Brooks appeared at her side, breathing hard from running. Linda, we need to get to the shelter. Come on, they're here for me, Kevin, Linda said quietly. I can't hide in a shelter. What are you talking about? The creature I helped. It wasn't just an animal, it was a prince, and these are his people. Kevin stared at her like she had lost her mind. That's impossible. The Planet Files said there were only simple life forms on Zarian 4. The Planet Files were wrong. Before Kevin could respond, the station shook slightly. Not from weapons fire, but from something docking with the station. Linda could see smaller ships detaching from the main vessel and moving toward the docking bays. "Attention Research Station Omega 7, the deep voice spoke again. "We are coming aboard. Do not resist. We mean no harm to anyone except those who would prevent us from speaking with Dr. Martinez." Commander Harrison's voice crackled over the intercom. "Unknown vessels, you do not have permission to dock. Please withdraw immediately." And there was no response from the alien ships. The docking bay doors opened automatically, overridden by technology more advanced than anything on the station. Linda watched through the observation windows as the first alien ship settled into the bay with impossible grace. "I have to go down." "There," Linda said. "Are you crazy?" Kevin grabbed her arm. "We don't know what they want. They could be hostile. They want to talk to me. If I don't go, they might hurt other people." Linda pulled free from Kevin's grip and started walking toward the docking bay. She was scared, but she was also curious. Her whole life she had dreamed of meeting truly alien intelligence. Now it was happening, and she wasn't going to hide. Kevin followed her, muttering about how this was the worst idea ever. They reached the docking bay just as the airlock cycled open. Linda held her breath, not knowing what to expect. The beings that emerged were unlike anything she had ever imagined. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with humanoid shapes, but clearly not human. Their skin looked like it was covered in fine scales that shifted color from deep blue to silver as they moved. Their faces were elegant and angular, with large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The leader was the most impressive of all. He moved with the confidence of someone used to command, and his scales were a deeper blue than the others. When he spoke, Linda recognized the voice from the radio transmission. "I am General Alexios of the Celestial Dragon Empire," he said, his voice carrying easily across the docking bay. "We come in peace, seeking the human who showed mercy to Prince Draconius." A squad of station security guards had positioned themselves between the aliens and Linda, their weapons drawn but not aimed. Commander Harrison stood with them, looking more nervous than Linda had ever seen him. "This is Commander Harrison," he said. "You're trespassing on a Galactic Science Consortium facility. State your business and leave immediately." General Alexios looked at Harrison with what might have been amusement. "Your weapons cannot harm us, Commander. We are not here to fight. We are here to honor a debt." "What debt?" Harrison asked. "The debt owed to the human who saved the life of our prince." General Alexios's eyes moved past the security guards and found Linda. "Dr. Linda Martinez, I presume." Linda stepped forward, ignoring the protests from the security guards. "I'm Linda Martinez, but I don't understand. The creature I helped was just an animal trapped under some rocks." "The creature you helped was Prince Draconius, heir to the Celestial Dragon Empire and son of Emperor Pyros. He was on a diplomatic mission when the meteor storm struck Zarian 4. Your quick thinking and compassion saved his life." The words hit Linda like a physical blow. The beautiful, intelligent creature she had helped was a prince. And these beings were dragons. Real dragons, like from the old stories, but evolved into something far more advanced than humans had ever imagined. "Dragons," she whispered. General Alexios nodded. "We are the children of the stars, the guardians of the ancient ways. We have watched over this galaxy for thousands of years, protecting younger races from themselves and from others who would do them harm." Commander Harrison stepped forward. "If you're so advanced, why haven't we heard of you before?" "Because we choose to remain hidden. Most young races are not ready for contact with beings of our capabilities. They become dependent or they become hostile. We prefer to observe and guide from the shadows." Linda found her voice. "Then why are you here now? Why reveal yourselves?" General Alexios's expression softened slightly. "Because of what you did. When Prince Draconius was trapped and dying, you could have followed your protocols and left him there. Instead, you chose to help, even though you knew it would cost you your career. That kind of selfless compassion is rare in any species. I just did what anyone would do, Linda said. No, General Alexios said firmly. You did what few beings in this galaxy would do. You put the life of a stranger before your own welfare. That is the mark of a truly evolved soul. One of the other. Dragon stepped forward, carrying what looked like a small crystal device. We have been observing your species for many years, he said. Humans are interesting. You are violent and chaotic, but you also possess great capacity for growth. And compassion. Dr. Martinez's actions have proven that humanity may be ready for the next step. What next step? Commander Harrison asked suspiciously. General Alexios ignored him and spoke directly to Linda. Dr. Martinez, our Emperor, wishes to meet you personally. He wants to thank you for saving his son's life and to discuss the future relationship between our peoples. Linda felt dizzy. You want me to go with you? If you are willing, you would be the first human to see our home worlds, to learn our ways. You would become a bridge between our species. This is insane, Commander Harrison said. Dr. Martinez is a civilian. She has no authority to represent humanity. She has the authority of her actions, General Alexios replied. When she chose to help Prince Draconius, she spoke for the best of human nature. That is the only authority we recognize. Linda looked around the docking bay. The security guards were still tense, ready for a fight that would probably end badly for them. Commander Harrison looked like he was trying to figure out how to handle a situation that was completely beyond his training. Kevin was staring at the dragons with the fascination of a scientist seeing something impossible. If I go with you, Linda said slowly, what happens to the people here? Nothing. They are safe. We have no quarrel with them. And if I refuse? General Alexios was quiet for a moment. Then we will leave, disappointed but not surprised. However, this opportunity will not come again. Our Emperor is very old, and he does not often change his mind about younger races. Linda realized that this was about more than just her. The dragons were offering humanity a chance to join something bigger, something that could change the fate of her entire species. But that choice was being placed on her shoulders. Can I bring someone with me? She asked. If you wish. Linda looked at Kevin, who was still staring at the dragons with wonder. Kevin, do you want to come with me? Are you serious? Kevin asked. We're talking about going with aliens to their homeworld. We don't know anything about them. I know. They could have taken me by force if they wanted to, Linda said. But they asked. That tells me something about who they are. Kevin was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. If you're going, I'm going too. Someone needs to make sure you don't get yourself killed. General Alexios smiled, showing teeth that were slightly pointed but not threatening. Prince Draconius will be pleased to see you again, Dr. Martinez. He has spoken of you many times. Since his rescue, is he all right? Linda asked. He is fully recovered, thanks to your care. Dragon physiology is quite resilient, but without your intervention, he would have died. Linda took a deep breath. She was about to leave everything she had ever known to go with beings from another world. It was terrifying and exciting at the same time. Commander Harrison, she said, turning to face him, tell the consortium that I chose to go. This isn't kidnapping or coercion. This is my choice? Harrison looked like he wanted to argue, but he just nodded. I'll make sure they know. Linda and Kevin gathered their few belongings and followed the dragons toward their ship. As they walked, Linda couldn't help but think about how much her life had changed in just 2 days. She had gone from a disgraced scientist to humanity's first ambassador to a dragon empire. The dragon ship was beautiful inside, with curved walls that seemed to pulse with gentle light. As they took off from the station, Linda looked back at the life she was leaving behind. She didn't know what the future would bring, but she knew it would be extraordinary. Linda Martinez stared out the window of the dragon ship as they traveled through space unlike anything she had ever seen. The ship moved without any vibration or sound, gliding through the darkness like it was swimming through water instead of flying through vacuum. Strange lights danced outside the windows, and Linda realized they weren't looking at normal stars anymore. "We are traveling through what you might call a hidden pathway," General Alexios explained as he joined Linda and Kevin near the observation deck. "Space is not as empty or simple as your scientists believe. There are currents and channels that can carry ships much faster than your technology allows." Kevin was frantically writing notes in a small journal he always carried. "This is incredible. How does it work? What kind of energy source do you use?" General Alexios smiled. "You will have time to learn about our technology, Dr. Brooks, but first you must understand our culture. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous." The journey took 3 days, though time seemed to move strangely inside the ship. Linda never felt hungry or tired, and the soft light from the walls made it impossible to tell when it was day or night. She spent most of her time talking with the Dragon crew members, learning about their society. The dragons, she discovered, were nothing like the savage beasts from Earth's old stories. They were philosophers, scientists, and artists who had spent thousands of years perfecting their civilization. They could take human-like form when they wanted to, but their true shapes were the magnificent scaled beings she had imagined. "Why? Do you hide from other species?" Linda asked one of the younger dragons, a female named Lydia who served as the ship's communications officer. "Because contact changes everything," Lydia explained. "When a young race meets an older one, they usually become dependent on the advanced technology. They stop growing, stop learning to solve their own problems. We have seen it happen many times, but you're making contact with us now? Because your actions showed us that humans might be different. Most species, when they find something unknown and potentially dangerous, they either run away or try to destroy it. You chose a third option. You chose to help." On the second day of travel, Linda finally met Prince Draconius again. He came to her quarters in his humanoid form, but she could see the resemblance to the injured creature she had helped on Zarian 4. His eyes were the same intelligent amber color, and his movements had the same graceful dignity. "Dr. Martinez," he said, bowing slightly, "I owe you my life." Linda felt embarrassed. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would do." "That is where you are wrong," Prince Draconius said. "I have traveled to many worlds and met many species. Very few would have risked their careers to help a stranger, especially one that looked dangerous." "You didn't look dangerous to me, you looked hurt," Prince Draconius smiled. "That is exactly why my father wants to meet you. You saw past the surface to the being underneath." Linda learned that Prince Draconius had been on a secret diplomatic mission when the meteor storm hit Zarian 4. He had been meeting with representatives from a hostile alien species, trying to prevent a war that could have destroyed several star systems. When his ship was damaged in the storm, he had crashed on the planet in his dragon form. "If I had died there," he explained, "the peace talks would have failed. Millions of beings would have suffered in the war that followed. Your compassion saved more lives than you realize." Kevin was fascinated by everything he saw and heard. The dragons shared some of their scientific knowledge with him, showing him healing technologies that seemed like magic. They could cure diseases by adjusting the energy patterns in living cells. They could grow new organs from a single drop of blood. They could even slow down aging, which explained why some of the dragons were thousands of years old. "This could revolutionize medicine on Earth," Kevin told Linda excitedly. "Think about what we could do with this knowledge." "That's exactly what worries them," Linda replied. "They're afraid that if they share too much too fast, we'll become dependent on their help instead of learning to advance ourselves." On the third day, they reached the edge of dragon space. Linda gasped when she saw the first dragon station. It wasn't built like human structures with metal and straight lines. Instead, it looked like it had grown from space itself, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to breathe. "How do you build something like that?" Kevin asked. "We don't build," General Alexios explained. "We grow. Dragon technology is based on living systems, not mechanical ones. Our ships, our stations, our cities are all alive in their own way. As they traveled deeper into dragon territory, Linda saw more wonders. Space stations that existed in multiple dimensions at once, looking solid but somehow also transparent. Ships that seemed to bend the fabric of space around them. Planets that had been transformed into impossible gardens with floating continents and waterfalls that flowed upward into the sky. How long have your people been able to do all this? Linda asked. We have been spacefaring for over 50,000 years, General Alexios said. But we learned long ago that technology alone does not make a civilization great. Wisdom, compassion, and restraint are far more important. Finally, they reached Draconis Prime, the capital world of the Dragon Empire. Linda couldn't find words to describe what she saw. The planet itself seemed to glow with soft light, and she could see cities floating in the clouds, connected by bridges made of crystallized energy. Mountains reached impossibly high into the sky with waterfalls that sparkled like diamonds. Welcome to our home, Prince Draconius said as their ship descended toward the largest floating city. The city was built around and into a massive mountain that rose from the surface of the planet into the upper atmosphere. Buildings seemed to grow out of the living rock, following curves and patterns that looked natural but were clearly designed. Dragons in both humanoid and full dragon form moved through the streets and airways with casual grace. Linda and Kevin were given quarters in the Imperial Palace, a structure that seemed to be carved from the heart of the mountain itself. Their rooms were larger than Linda's entire apartment back on Earth, with walls that showed changing views of the city and the planet beyond. The walls are alive, Kevin discovered, running his hands over the smooth surface. They're responding too. Our presence, showing us what they think we want to see. Linda's room had a balcony that looked out over the city. She stood there for hours watching dragons go about their daily lives. Some flew through the air in their true forms, magnificent creatures with wingspans that stretched hundreds of feet. Others walked the streets in humanoid shapes, talking and laughing like any people in any city, but there were differences that reminded Linda she was very far from home. The dragons moved with a grace that humans couldn't match. Their voices carried musical tones that spoke of intelligence far older than human civilization. And everywhere she looked, she saw technology that seemed like magic. A young dragon named Marcus was assigned to be their guide. He was curious about humans and asked endless questions about Earth culture. In return, he showed them around the palace and explained dragon customs. The most important thing to understand, Marcus told them, is that dragons value honor above all else. We believe that how you treat others, especially those weaker than yourself, shows your true character. Is that why you stay hidden from younger species? Linda asked. Partly. We also stay hidden because we learned that being too involved in the affairs of younger races often does more harm than good. We prefer to watch and guide subtly, helping when necessary but not interfering with natural development. Linda learned that the Dragon Empire included thousands of worlds and dozens of species, all living together peacefully under dragon protection. But the dragons were careful never to make other species dependent on them. Each race was encouraged to develop their own strengths and solutions. What about humans? Linda asked. What do you see as our strengths? Marcus thought for a moment. Humans are unpredictable. Most species follow patterns that we can understand and predict, but humans ... you constantly surprise us. You are capable of great cruelty, but also great kindness. You are destructive, but also creative. You are selfish, but also capable of incredible self-sacrifice. That doesn't sound like much of a strength. On the contrary, Marcus said. That unpredictability, that ability to choose different paths, is exactly what makes you interesting. Most species reach a point where they become set in their ways. Humans never seem to reach that point. You keep growing, keep changing. As Linda prepared to meet the Emperor, she thought about what Marcus had said. Humans were unpredictable. Maybe that was why the dragons were willing to make contact now. Maybe they saw something in humanity that even humans didn't see in themselves. The meeting with Emperor Pyros was scheduled for the next day. Linda tried to sleep, but her mind was too full of everything she had seen and learned. In just a few days, her understanding of the universe had completely changed. Tomorrow, she would meet the ruler of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy, and somehow, her simple act of kindness on a distant planet had made it all possible. Linda Martinez woke up on the morning she was to meet Emperor Pyros feeling more nervous than she had ever been in her life. She stood on her balcony, watching the sun rise over the dragon capital city, painting the floating buildings in shades of gold and pink. Dragons soared through the morning sky, their scales catching the light like living jewels. Marcus arrived early to help Linda prepare for the meeting. He brought her a special outfit made from dragon silk that seemed to change color as she moved. The fabric was lighter than air, but somehow made her feel more confident. "The Emperor has requested a private meeting in the Garden of Contemplation," Marcus explained. "This is a great honor. He only meets important visitors there." "I don't feel very important," Linda said honestly. "The Emperor believes otherwise. Your actions on Zarion 4 have changed the course of history. Today you will learn how much." Kevin came to see Linda off. He had spent the morning talking with dragon scientists and was practically glowing with excitement about everything he had learned. "They've offered to let me study in their medical schools," he told Linda. "Can you believe it? I could learn healing techniques that wouldn't be discovered on Earth for centuries." "That's wonderful, Kevin. You deserve it. What about you?" You ready for this?" Linda took a deep breath. "As ready as anyone can be to meet the ruler of a galactic empire." Marcus led Linda through the palace and into areas she hadn't seen before. They passed through halls lined with artwork that seemed to move and change as they walked by. The dragon guides explained that the art was alive, responding to the emotions and thoughts of people who viewed it. Finally, they reached a simple door made of what looked like ordinary wood. Marcus stopped before opening it. "Beyond this door is the Garden of Contemplation," he said. "It exists in a pocket dimension created by the Emperor himself. Time moves differently there, and the space is larger than it appears. Do not be afraid of what you see." The door opened, and Linda stepped through into the most beautiful place she had ever seen. The garden stretched for miles in every direction, filled with plants and flowers from thousands of different worlds. Some of the flowers glowed with their own light, while others seemed to be made of living crystal. A gentle stream ran through the center of the garden, and the water sang as it flowed over smooth stones. Emperor Pyros was waiting for her beside the stream. Linda had expected someone impressive and intimidating, but the Emperor appeared as a kindly older man with silver hair and gentle eyes. His only obviously non-human features were the fine silver scales that covered his hands and the amber color of his eyes. "Dr. Martinez," he said, standing as she approached. "Thank you for coming such a long way to see me. Thank you for inviting me, Your Majesty," Linda said, trying to remember the formal greeting Marcus had taught her. The Emperor smiled. "Please call me Pyros. In this garden we can speak as equals." He gestured to a bench beside the singing stream. "Sit with me. We have much to discuss." Linda sat down, still feeling nervous but somehow more relaxed in the Emperor's presence. There was something about him that made her feel safe, like talking to a wise grandfather. "First," Pyros said, "I must thank you for saving my son's life. Draconius is precious to me beyond measure. He is my youngest child, born after centuries of hoping for more children. When I thought I had lost him," the Emperor's voice became quiet. "You gave me back the most important thing in my life." "I'm glad I could help," Linda said. "But I still don't understand why this is such a big deal. Anyone would have done the same thing." Pyros shook his head. "You underestimate both your own courage and the selfishness of most beings. Let me tell you something about my people's history." The Emperor stood and walked to the edge of the stream. As he spoke, images appeared in the water, showing Linda scenes from the past. "Long ago, we dragons were young and foolish. We used our power to conquer and rule other species. We thought that because we were stronger and more advanced, we had the right to control others. The images showed dragon armies sweeping across planets, enslaving other races. But we learned that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. The species we conquered became weak and dependent. They stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped becoming what they could be. We realized we were not helping them. We were destroying them. The images changed, showing dragons withdrawing from other worlds, letting conquered species reclaim their freedom. So we changed our ways. We decided to hide ourselves and watch over younger races from the shadows. We would only interfere if they were in danger of destroying themselves completely. Otherwise, we would let them grow and learn at their own pace. Linda watched the images with fascination. How long have you been watching humanity? Since your species first learned to use fire. We have seen your wars, your discoveries, your triumphs and failures. Most of the time, we have stayed hidden and simply observed. But you're revealing yourselves now. Why? Piros returned to the bench and looked directly at Linda. Because of what you did? When you found my son, you had a choice. You could follow your rules and leave him to die. You could call for help and let others handle the situation. Or you could risk everything to save a creature you didn't even know. You chose to help, even though you knew it would cost you your career. That showed us something we rarely see in any species. True compassion. The willingness to sacrifice for others without expecting anything in return. Linda felt uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what felt right. Exactly. And that is why my people have decided that humanity might be ready for the next step in your development. The Emperor stood again and gestured to the garden around them. Dr. Martinez, I am going to make you an offer that has never been made to any member of a younger species. I want you to become humanity's first ambassador to the Dragon Empire. Linda felt her heart stop. Ambassador? You would serve as a bridge between our peoples. You would learn our ways, our knowledge, our technology. And in return, you would help guide humanity's development, ensuring that your species avoids the mistakes that have destroyed so many others. I don't understand. What mistakes? Piros waved his hand and new images appeared in the stream. Linda saw planets that had been turned into wastelands by war. Species that had destroyed themselves with their own technology. Civilizations that had become so dependent on others that they forgot how to think for themselves. These are the fates that await most young species, Piros explained. They either destroy themselves through violence and greed, or they become dependent on more advanced races and lose their own identity. But humanity could be different. Your unpredictability, your capacity for both great evil and great good, your ability to change and grow even in the face of impossible odds. These traits could help you avoid both fates. Linda tried to process what she was being offered. You want me to help guide all of humanity? Not control, guide, suggest, warn when necessary. You would have access to knowledge and technology. That could advance your species by thousands of years, but you would also be bound by sacred oaths to use that knowledge wisely. What kind of oaths? You would swear never to use dragon knowledge for war or conquest. You would promise to share what you learn gradually, allowing humanity to grow naturally rather than overwhelming them with too much too fast. And you would vow to protect not just humanity, but all species that humanity encounters as you expand across the galaxy. Linda stood up and walked to the stream, looking at her own reflection in the singing water. This was bigger than anything she had ever imagined. The Emperor was offering her the chance to help shape the future of her entire species. What about Kevin? What about my life on Earth? Dr. Brooks would be welcome to study with our healers and scientists. As for your life on Earth, that would necessarily change. You would be working in secret, at least at first. Humanity is not ready for open contact with us yet. How would it work? Piros joined her beside the stream. You would establish a secret communication network between Earth's leaders and our empire. Gradually, carefully, you would introduce them to our existence and our knowledge. You would help them prepare for the day when humanity is ready to join the galactic community openly. Linda thought about her old job at the research station. The frustration she had felt with rules and bureaucracy. Then she thought about the wonders she had seen in just a few days with the dragons. If I say yes, there's no going back, is there? No, Pyrrho said gently. This path would change not just your life, but the destiny of your entire species. It is not a decision to make lightly. Linda closed her eyes and thought about the injured creature she had found on Zarian 4. She had helped him without knowing who he was or what it would lead to. She had simply seen a being in pain and chosen to act. Now, once again, she had a choice. She could play it safe, return to Earth, and live a quiet life. Or she could take a leap of faith and help guide humanity toward a future among the stars. Linda opened her eyes and looked at the Emperor. I accept. Pyrrho smiled, and for a moment Linda could see the ancient dragon behind the human appearance. Then let us begin. You have much to learn, and humanity has much to gain from your courage.